Cheers, guys. Welcome back to another video. So I got a post for us today. It's a treat. It's a good one. And something that just occurred to me. It's so crazy how as human beings we just tend to forget. We have these sorts of epiphanies, or you could call them revelations, and it seems to be that unless we are reminded of these things, they seem to get lost in the sauce, like lost to the wayside. And we have something that triggers us that causes us to remember. And it's like, whoa, how and on earth did I forget this? And this is one of those things where, every time I take a break from doing these videos and then I get back to it, I'm reminded of the fact it's kind of like going to the gym for me personally. I'm reminded of the fact of how powerful, doing, focusing on the thoughts and focusing on our thought forms truly is. Because the reason I began posting these videos to begin with, and a lot of the ways that I came about reading these posts and sharing with these posts with you guys was simply therapy for my own self. I decided to upload them to YouTube, and people found value in my sharing the posts, breaking them down, and essentially sharing the knowledge on these Reddit posts from a lot of these success stories, because I personally found them to be very therapeutic. As a reminder to me that this stuff works, as a reminder to me that when I read the post, and especially when I'm saying the words of the post and when I'm breaking them down, it helps me if I'm trying to break down the information and share them in this video format to make them more digestible, more understandable, connect the dots and all the missing pieces that for me makes more sense out of it for me. Then it becomes very, they say the best way to learn something is to teach something, right? And so along the path of kind of struggling to implement some of these things and really gain consistency with any sort of these practices, this is what it led me to, was the simple reading of these posts, breaking things down, sharing my own insights. And from then out, of course, I have some of my own videos that I post as well that are just, I don't always share Reddit posts, but the point remains is that when I do these readings, when I take a break from doing these, my mind tends to get back into this drifting, into this state of reactivity that you all know what I'm talking about. It's just a state where you are lacking that masculine sort of energy. What I mean by that is the imprinting onto the subconscious. A lot of the times it is done through, we talk about on this channel, it's the affirmations, it's the affirmative words, but it could also be the visualization. It could also be some sort of felt experience that you have, and or an experience that leads you down the path of, okay, I'm deciding, I'm imprinting my subconscious, I'm directing my own narrative, my own story with whether it's an internal representation, an imaginal act, whatever it might be. But now you're back in the driver's seat. So you're the one steering the car instead of going along for the ride, sitting in the passenger seat. And little do you know, your life story is unfolding as a reaction to all of these circumstances, this miasma that has essentially a tapestry that has been woven not by your own hand, but by everything in your environment, from the teachers that you grew up with, the things that you're watching on TV, the music, the friends that you have, and all of the negativity that entails. So with that being said, it's a little bit of a mouthful before we get into this post, but it just goes to show that when you take a step away, sometimes it can be something as simple as coming back to a video, watching one thing that reminds you, and then doing it. Whatever that might be for you, whether it is you sit down to do your visualization, or you simply journal out your thoughts, what it is that you are declaring to be true about yourself and your reality. Very crucial. So here we go. So this post is called "Your Reality Has No Other Choice But to Prove You Right Always, because that's its only job." Hello, my dear gods of their reality. Hope you guys are doing well. I just want to say one thing. Life is truly magical and amazing once you really understand this simple law and live by it. Lifestyle. That careless, free feeling of childhood where there was no tension is back in my life, and it's amazing. Now, this is a point that I want to touch on, but we'll go ahead and read the post before I do. So now getting straight to the point. As the title says, your reality has no other choice but to prove you right, always. This is the most simplified explanation of the law, in my opinion. Whatever you tell yourself in your mind, aka mental diet, your most consistent, dominant thoughts, not random ones, is what your reality will show you. If you say to yourself, I'm unlucky, things will happen to you that prove that you are unlucky. If you say you are lucky, then lucky things will happen to you. If you say you are unlucky with girls, which I was earlier, you will get more evidence and more experience to validate that story. But if you say your luck with girls is exceptional, then you will literally have the same experience. It is what you say to yourself the most. This week, something happened which made me realize this more and more and made me ponder on this concept. My college is completed this May, and usually around July/August, we get our caution money back, which we submitted at the starting of college. As July came, I started to wonder what if college delays our caution money return. I'm not sure what, I've never heard of that phrase before, but first it was a random thought, but my silly ass got scared and started dwelling in that story, but thinking about it constantly, asking seniors what to do if I don't get my money back, making scenarios in my mind of how I'll talk to the dean regarding this matter. And surprise, surprise, this is what happened. First August, then September, no update. All the students were contacting the dean, and his response was that it will take 3 to 4 more months for certain reasons. I was like, see, I told you guys. It's funny to think how I was applying the law so well here against myself, even when I was using it consciously in my favor in other parts of my life. Then it hit me what I was doing. 3 days ago, I realized my mistake and thanked myself to once again prove to myself how well the law works. I changed the story in my mind to I got my caution money in the bank, my college is amazing, just this simple story whenever the topic came in my mind, only pure mental diet. Guess what? Yesterday at 8 p.m., our dean posted a notice saying that he will be getting our caution money this week within 3 to 4 days. Why it happened? It's not because my college administration got changed, a change of heart and started caring about their students on their own, but because they had to comply with the story in my mind. They had no free will other than to follow the script which I gave them. I know some people don't like this term because they think it's evil or something, but it is what it is. This is how life works, buddy. I noticed too that people that speak with this type of conviction, even if they might not be, a lot of the times people that speak with conviction, even if there may be some gaps in their thinking, or that may not be the full story, a lot of the time that tends to be what's true for them. It tends to become their truth. So some more of my insights. So when I changed the story of my dearest friend in my mind that we are in constant communication, even after being in no contact for 7 years, my reality has no their choice but to make him appear in front of me, and now we are in communication and I got my friend back. 2, being single and shy, awkward around girls for 22 years made me hopeless. But that is why my reality perfectly replaying the script, because I was... So there's some words here that are, this is not, like there's certain gaps in the grammar here. I was the director. But as soon as I changed the story in my mind, I got my first girlfriend. A baddie, 10 out of 10, hee. But now in general, whenever I go out, I get choosing signals from the opposite gender and even got approached a few times, which is completely different from before. Last week, one waitress even wrote her number on the bill and gave it to me in front of my family. Felt amazing and awkward at the same time, haha. 3, earlier it used to rain a lot where I live currently, like 4 to 5 days a week, and that too heavy rain. Now I don't like gloomy, rainy weather. I prefer it sunny. I said to myself, how sunny it is outside. I love this weather. And guess what? It's been 3 weeks and there's no rain. Okay. And they make the point because my reality has no choice but to prove me right always. 4, earlier in the story, my mind regarding relatives was not positive due to TV programs and general consensus and also previous history. So my reality reflected that perfectly. But as soon as I changed the story in my mind, the change is day and night. It's way better than I imagined. And the interesting thing is the opinion of the people around me on this topic has completely changed. Like they don't even remember that they were used to the old story because my reality has completely shifted. 5, in 2022, when I started to go deep into this stuff, some big YouTubers brainwashed me into thinking I had to do yoga, vibrate high, all of this stuff, and that people around me would not be able to relate to you. You have to leave them behind. So this is what happened. I started to feel depressed. No one was understanding me. My friends started to drift away. Then one day I thought, what if this is BS? What if I can have anything I want? Then why do I have to be isolated? So I changed my view completely in the story of my mind regarding my friends, relating to other people, and guess what happened? All my friends started to be sweeter and better to me, and I became the star of our group because I was in my mind. I gained more friends, and now everyone can relate to me. Now, not to boast about me, but now I don't need to go to any party because I am the party and people come to me now. 6, skin. Earlier, my skin was a bit dull and rough. No compliments from anyone. I changed the story in my mind. My skin is glowing. Boys also take care of their looks. My skin is so smooth and healthy. No change in lifestyle, absolutely nothing. 2 weeks later, my mother for the first time asked me what I'm doing with my skin. It's glowing. And my sister asked me, hey bro, what are you doing with your skin? It's literally glowing like a bulb. Even last week, one random lady who was waiting in a takeaway line with me just turned around, asked my name, and asked me about the secret to my glowing skin. Same with health, money, and studies. You get the point. For the love of God, don't complicate it. Just change what you were telling yourself in your mind, mental diet, and your reality will reflect that exactly. No matter if it's relationship, money, parents, health, doesn't matter. One last thing. If negative thoughts come or you feel anxious, don't beat yourself. It's just your habitual mind doing its job. Just be indifferent. Don't indulge in it, and it will die on its own. You give water to the wanted plants, and all the weeds will die to thirst. You got this. So top comment on here is, thanks, it's simplified a lot for me. This year, after becoming more aware of my thoughts, I realized how even I manifested unwanted circumstances in the 3D. And they ask, can you please share what kind of thoughts you think about throughout the day in favor of the new story? Is it one repetitive thought, or do you remember to conjure up thoughts? Normally, I repeat my 2 to 3 affirmations whenever the topic comes to mind. What matters mainly is consistency and discipline. What do you mean by consistency here? Yes, means not going back to the old story in the mind no matter what. Just keep your mind in track like a wild horse, and soon enough it will be in front of you, the real master. Yeah, that's a good analogy. I've heard that one before. That's what I was alluding to at the beginning of this. It's like, if you don't take control, if you don't take the reins, I gave the analogy of the steering wheel. They're giving the analogy of the horse. If you don't take that and take control over that, it's going to be a wild horse. You're going to be in the passenger seat of this car that you don't know where it's going. You're not the one at the helm of the ship anymore. And that seems to be the state that 99% of people exist in, is just a constant reactionary to the external stimuli without actually taking charge. And it's kind of baffling to see this. And it's baffling that you slip in and out of this state yourself, even as much as I have done this and learned all of this stuff, how easy it is to slip back into that seat where you are now looking at the 3D as if it is your master, as if it is the one declaring what is true for you, the circumstances, people around you, rather than you claiming back that authority. And that is why it's so vitally important to have some sort of in my opinion, reminders or triggers for you that get you back into this thinking, that get you back into this mindset. There used to be a practice that I would practice called Mind Power by John Kehoe. And when I first started recording these videos, I would simply dwell on those simple phrases, and a lot of them, they're really phrases to remind you that you are the one in control of your thoughts. Your thoughts are real forces. Every thought that is emotionalized becomes magnetized and attracts similar thoughts. Um, there's six of these laws, but to get back to this video, or to this post here, um, this type of conviction with which this person is saying this is also one of these things. Sometimes in the past in videos, I've said, I don't like this like super dogmatic approach. And it's true. I don't. But I'd be lying to myself if I didn't say that a lot of the people that you see that achieve success have a dogmatic approach. And I'm not necessarily dogmatic when it comes to Neville or these ideas, but dogmatic in the sense that they are the shit, or that they are their own authority, or that they always get whatever it is. They're just lucky. They're lucky people. And some things that come to mind, it's like the braggadocious approach of a lot of these, and nowadays modern day rappers, I don't even know what's going on with these rappers anymore. But when I grew up, Lil Wayne, Gucci Mane, all of these guys were just essentially caricatures of themselves. The WWE is also a good example of this. And the amount that these guys would brag and kind of speak things into existence, like Kanye West, like that level of delusional confidence. uh Again, like, if you're gonna just kind of be like, ah, yeah, these guys are crazy, and just kind of write it off, well, you're kind of also missing the fact that is also, like, they spoke that into existence. All these things that they're saying, they weren't true when they started saying them, but they are true now. Like, um anybody that's achieved a lot, like a lot of success, even if they're not proclaiming these things outwardly. Some people obviously have a much more humble sort of approach, or outward sort of narrative that they, as they're sharing their story, or sharing their opinions. But the Donald Trump, that's another example. I mean, people like this, again, regardless whether you kind of, it's your cup of tea, maybe not. Obviously, these types of things are very polarizing. They rub people the wrong way a lot of the time. Andrew Tate is another example. A lot of the people that have kind of risen into the public stratosphere, and again, discarding the fact of whether you personally like these people or not, there is an inarguable point that they have really spoken a lot of the things that they have talked about into existence. I mean, if I talk about Andrew Tate, for example, this guy was, on all accounts, a kind of just a nerd. Like, he used to play chess. If you look at old pictures and videos of him, he did not have the same personality that he now has. But him speaking into existence, that he's going to be an amazing kickboxer. He's going to be the best fighter, and the way that he speaks, I mean, he has, on any account, achieved these kinds of metrics of success in the domain of fighting, and certainly in the domain of getting notoriety for himself. Again, obviously a polarizing figure that a lot of people disagree with, but regardless of whatever you think about him, for a while he was the most Googled man on the internet, and that is inarguably because those are the thoughts that he would tell himself. That was really, really what he believed, is that he really was, and he really did have this message to spread. And at the core of that may be that he wanted to make financial gains and rise in popularity, and he wanted to be famous and all these things. But regardless of any of these facts, the reason and all of those things, these people that I'm bringing up these examples is because they're all testaments of the fact of how powerful the human mind really is. There a lot of your shortcomings, a lot of things about you that you may have viewed as weaknesses before. When you kind of develop this conviction that everything is bending in your favor, reality tends to conform. But it takes so much repetition of thought. It takes almost like a slaughtering of the old self. That's a more violent language than somebody like Neville Goddard would use, but he says discard the old man, right? Discard those old clothings. Essentially, destroy your past, destroy that image of yourself, that conception of yourself that was weak, that was powerless, that was not invited to the party, that was sidelined on the bench during baseball practice. Get rid of all of these images and internal representations that you used to have of yourself, and replace them with a like voracious ferocity, with this new image of yourself that you have conjured in your mind, that is a basically Super Saiyan version of yourself. I mean, why is it that we resonate with these public figures and all these stories, is like this idea of transformation in Dragon Ball Z, where it's like you they literally turn into like a different, their hair changes and everything changes about their appearance, because it is a new, it's like a metamorphosis. It's like a turning into a butterfly from a caterpillar. And that is really the evolution of in a visual sense, a visual depiction of the same type of metamorphosis that happens when you discard, as Neville Goddard says, that old clothing. It's like you were literally wearing an old suit or an old coat that was tattered, and now you also, why also does that, a lot of these characters that I've mentioned, any of these rappers, they begin to adorn themselves with bling, with all the accoutrements and outer kind of this has a hypnotic effect on the psyche. When you begin to start wearing a new suit of clothing, you step into a new identity, and that is one way that you could trigger yourself and help yourself as a crutch to become the new man. Not necessarily saying that it's a absolute necessity, but again, you'd be remiss to not acknowledge the power that those things have. Like waking up and turning on stepping into $100,000 car, you're going to feel differently. And I'm not saying that you need these things, but I am saying that there is an effect that it has on your psychological state. So anything that you can do, whether it could just be that you start shopping, you start buying healthier food, you start holding yourself to a higher standard in your life. You drink, the things that you put in your body. Obviously, for me personally, I believe in all this metaphysical stuff, but I believe that we are also human beings. So it's obviously going to increase your fuel, going to increase your natural energy. But on top of that, now you have the self-image of somebody who only buys the best, who only gets the best for yourself, right? You're buying the best ingredients. Let's say you're cooking something at home, or you go to the steakhouse. You buy, the fillet instead of kind of like trying to cheap out for the ribeye. You don't need to, any of these things are available to you at any given time as a package that you can utilize and kind of like to take on that new identity. But at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. And that's why, like, the self-concept, you can always do affirmations, you can always do visualizations, but if your concept of yourself isn't changing through some sort of hypnotic induction into a new version of yourself, whether that is affirmations, whether that is making a new routine. It could be that now that, again, if you find yourself in a new city, you're going to take on new characteristics. Your personality naturally starts to begin to change because of that, simply because you have placed yourself in a new environment. So any of these things, guys, I know maybe this video is getting a little bit long here because I'm kind of just expounding on any of the ideas that have been circulating in my mind recently when it comes to this identity level change. You're going to need to cultivate this, whether you do it, again, like I said, in some sort of ritualized manner, getting a new routine in place, going to the gym. All of these things can help, but the self-talk, I guess what I want to impart here is that it all goes hand in hand. Like, you can do the affirmations. You can simply just wake up in the mirror and tell yourself these affirmations. But when you combine it and you stack it with going a new way to work, and getting your laundry done, and taking care of the things on your desk that have been piling up, you really begin to, like, shift into this new reality, this new version, because now you are you're changing up your routine. And again, our body responds to external stimulus as well. So it's some food for thought here. The last thing that I wanted to leave this on is like one of the main things that had an impact for me. There's been tons of things, but one of the things that really I saw a lot of this person mentions the word luck, right? I never saw myself as being lucky with girls. How do you begin to see yourself as being lucky with girls or lucky in your life? Uh, One of the ways that you do that is, and this is something that, I wanted to actually do a whole video on this because this is, I kind of want to bridge the gap, like as I tend to make attempts to do, between psychology and the stuff that Neville Goddard talks about. See, in psychology, there is something called object relations theory. Now, there's this other idea in psychology of unconscious competence. Now, where does unconscious competence really, really happen? So, I was discussing this with ChatGPT, so I'm going to break this down here. So, in object relations, every external relationship mirrors an internalized object. Now, what is see? This is using psychological lingo to describe what Neville Goddard is describing. Your internalized object, your internal representation of yourself is your self-concept. It is when you go to sleep at night or when you are imagining certain scenarios going on with XYZ person, who is this version of yourself? Who do you see yourself as is in your mind's eye? That is a separate thing than the actual physical form of yourself. So when the inner object is coherent, aka the self-concept, you've integrated self-trust, self-soothing, self-belief, and you've stopped relating to others through insecurity or projection. You interact from wholeness. This is another idea that I talk about a lot of the time is like when your cup is filled. What makes your cup filled? It's when you feel whole, when you feel complete inside as a complete integrated person. This gets really deep and also bridges the gap into some of the ideas that Carl Jung talks about, the individuation process and integrating the shadow. But that's a whole nother subject for another discussion. The unconscious competence is a behavioral expression of this integration. It means your body and nervous system automatically act out confidence and worth without mental rehearsal. So the people, when you see them in a total state of free flow, a state of play is another way of describing this. Their physical organism is just naturally expressing without there being any barrier, without there being any it's just clean energy. It's just clean intentional energy. There's no thought in between, there's no hesitation, there's no tinkering around and trying to fix this or tweak that. It's just the pure energy that comes through. And you no longer try to be secure. Your actions naturally reflect that security because the internal object has been stabilized. And it's coming into coherence. In psychology, another term they use is congruence, but it's like this version of yourself that you see in your mind's eye, the object, is now synchronized with the way that you are showing up in the world. And this is something that everyone around you can feel. In Neville Goddard's framework, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled is the metaphysical language for that same psychological process. When your inner self-image, the object representation, I'm already the person who has this, becomes consistent and emotionally real, the outer world reorganizes to match it. Manifestation in that sense is the external synchronization of the internal object integrity. So, what do they mean by this? So, your inner self-image, aka your self-concept, I am the person that already has this, becomes consistent and emotionally real. And that consistency happens with a lot of these practices like I'm talking about, whether it's visualization, whether it's affirming, whether it's, showing up for yourself in these different ways. Again, you taking control of the steering wheel, you stepping into the director's chair, you taking the pen to the paper and writing that story for yourself. the outer world reorganizes to match it. And that is why, like, the belief in yourself and all these things, that's great. If you believe it, more power to you. But even more important, more imperative than your belief is the repetition of this story, the repetition of this new identity, of this new object, so that your internal representation of this object of yourself is now crystallized and solidified, and it is so it becomes so real. It's almost more real in the 4D than your 3D, and then your 3D just matches it. It just synchronizes up with it. That's like the way that our DNA, that our human beings hardwired, is the internal representation we have of ourselves. It has no choice. The 3D has to catch up to that. And I think that is one thing that we try to express in a lot of these ideas, and the person that tried to express in this post. And again, this is just my way of bridging the gap, so that there's nothing there that instead of using metaphysical language all the time, sometimes it can be helpful to use a psychological framework to describe something. It fills in the gap for those of us that are more logical minded, those of us that just need that little extra shift in the piece in the puzzle. Just say something a little bit differently and all of a sudden it clicks. That's what what my intention is with these videos here. So when these three align, the belief, the being, and the behavior stop competing. That is profound right there. Object relations gives you the map, the self-object relationship. So that is the vision that you have of yourself, the self-image, the self-concept, the thing that is crystallized in your mind is becoming more and more concrete. You are refining it like a piece of art. Who is this person? That's why journaling can be effective. That's why any of these practices, guided meditations, hypnosis, because it's crystallizing in your mind this version of yourself in the 4D, which is more real than the 3D. And when you begin to see that version more real, with more all the tones of reality, as Neville Goddard would say, now it's got no choice. The 3D version has no choice but to line up and synchronize with this version in your mind's eye. Unconscious competence shows the embodied outcome, effortless congruence. Neville's manifestation describes the experiential field effect, reality mirroring the stabilized self-concept. When those three align, belief, being, behavior, stop competing. What you feel deserving of inwardly and what you express outwardly move into the one continuous state of creation. Again, also this could be described as a state of play. And I guess I'll do a whole nother video on this, because the state of play is what could be described and what has been described by certain philosophers, psychologists, and esoteric spiritual teachers as the highest state of consciousness that we can have. And now this makes a lot of sense, actually. It's something that me personally, I always thought, I tend to think that rationality, the thinking mind, the mental plane, is the highest kind of realm of human experience, or human, not experience, but human capacity. However, I am beginning to think that this state of play is described here. There's something to this that is maybe higher than the state of rationality. And a lot of, again, Jung, Nietzsche, Schopenhauer, some of these guys, Carl, and even in the Kabbalion and some of these, the Hermetic philosophy, I think would tend to agree with that. They talk about the reversion to the state of innocence, the reversion to the state of the child. But again, these are topics for another debate. What I want to end this video on right now is that one of the main ways to begin to crystallize this image of this new version of yourself is hypnosis. Like, what is it that we're doing when we're engaging in any of these practices? We're getting ourselves into a hypnotic state. I've written about this in my book, which is available down below, that a lot of the reasons that robotic affirmations work is because you were putting yourself into a state of hypnosis. The person that came up with autosuggestion, which was, nowadays has been relabeled as a robotic affirming. It's the same thing. Emile Coué, godfather of this practice, was a hypnotist, and he was achieving crazy results for his patients. All these people that achieve a lot of results, Tony Robbins, all these people that kind of these people kind of stood on the shoulders of these hypnotists, NLP and all these things, kind of branched out as a evolution of this idea that repetitive hypnotic thought, getting yourself into a state, even when you're working on something, that's a hypnotic state. When you find yourself in trance in all times of the day, when you get into that state where you visualize, why does Neville Goddard propose the state of akin to sleep? Well, that is the hypnotic state. That is the alpha theta level of mind where your subconscious is more is more receptive. You're essentially getting rid again of that thought, that mental kind of beta brainwave level, that's kind of in the way of your imprinting the subconscious again. So athletes, people at the highest levels will do these sort of practices. Lucid dreaming is another example of this. They visualize themselves. Done studies on this. Visualization, if you visualize something vividly enough in your mind's eye, it is no different than experiencing it. In some cases, it may actually be more real, like I mentioned before. Lucid dreaming, if you have ever done this, it actually, when you're experiencing this, feels more real than 3D reality, which sounds crazy, but if you've experienced it, then you know what I'm talking about. Now, again, last thing for this video is I have been working on some of these state shifting activations, is what I like to call them. Essentially, they are hypnosis tracks. They are like guided meditations for various states that you would like to enter into. What is a state? Neville Goddard talks about this. The state is that state of consciousness that this externalized, or you could call it externalized, but it's really, the reason I'm saying externalized is because it's like when you imagine it, you see it. Like, see it right there. Who is this version? But it's really like this internal representation that you see in your mind's eye of who you are. So that could be the state of wealth, a state where you are just lucky all the time. All the cards, you're always getting the winning hand at the poker table. You're always winning at the game of life. You have a state where you are just magnetic to the opposite sex or your preferred sex. It could just be a state where you are just so charismatic and so popular that you don't even have to do much, but you are, again, naturally, unconsciously competent in the realm of, business, in the realm of social interaction. It could be a state where you are, everything always works out for you. It could be a state where you are always a winner again. So any of these states of consciousness, a state of being known, the state of being well known, right? That is another state. If you go and you proceed from this state, as in you have this vision of yourself, somebody who has all these qualities, and now you are operating in your day-to-day, your 3D reality is going to match up and synchronize to this version of yourself that you've created in your mind. So if I create these state shifting activations where I activate this state inside of you, your 4D conception of self now is in alignment with this version that I've instructed your subconscious mind directly by getting into a hypnotic state and by doing it on a daily, perhaps, basis. Now, rather than you having to go around and trip about, am I doing my robotic affirmations right? Or am I doing my visualization practice right? Or am I doing X, Y, and Z the way that Neville Goddard and all these people talk about? It's a simple plug and play formula where you go in, you put your AirPods on, you sit in a relaxed state akin to sleep, before you go to bed at night, when you wake up in the morning, whatever the case may be. You don't have to, try and dabble and feel like you're spinning the wheels all the time. Now you have something where it's like, okay, all I got to do is just plug in my meditation, my guided hypnosis here, my state activation. And I know that this state is being activated inside of me without me having to do anything. I simply receive and allow myself to receive the state through my headphones, through the imagery, through the guided hypnosis that has been working, again, for everybody. That is what robotic affirmations are. They are a form of hypnosis. So if I allow this to imprint on my subconscious, which I have done personally, I've had success with hypnosis. I got into a relationship with a girl based off of hypnosis. When I was very young, went to see a hypnotist and deprogrammed a lot of this social anxiety, a lot of this fear of I'm not good enough, I never have anything good to say, and people never care about what I have to say, and all these kinds of debilitating things that I picked up in my childhood due to different issues that I had. If it can work for me, if it can work for all these people, it can work. It can work for you. The same way that these people are achieving these success stories on Reddit. Well, rather than you having to implement this, all of these different things and try to sift through all this stuff, it's like, okay, let's just directly go into the subconscious, get myself into that theta brainwave state akin to sleep, and let's directly implant this state. Let's directly go in here and plant that state of being with my SP now, of being the type of person that is magnetic to my ideal types of partners, the type of person that is just a magnet to wealth, the type of person that is just bursting with energy. I'm never at a deficit of energy. I always know what to do. I'm always sure of myself. I always have confidence. I always have certainty and conviction. If we can implant these states of consciousness into you, well, you're again, be based off of these theories and object relations, the stuff that Neville Goddard teaches, all of these things, connecting all the dots here, your 3D version is going to sync up with this 4D version because it has been imprinted so many times that it is now crystallized. Like I said, it's crystallized into this form. And that form has become more real in your mind, in your heart, in your subconscious. And the 3D is going to conform. So with this being said, guys, much love. I love doing these videos. I'm going to keep doing these. Again, if I don't have like the burst of inspiration to go off and do a brand new original video, I'm just going to do a reading from here because, when I do these readings, then it gets me going. It gets my kind of ideas flowing and all of this. So with that being said, guys, much love. Like I said, let me know your thoughts about this. What do you guys think about this? Do you like the idea of having state shifting activations available to you? If I was to make a vault of these activations with all the most requested ones and interact with you guys, and that way you guys could share and tell me, okay, let's make one for this. Okay, for the next activation, add this would help. Here's the type of music that we want. All of these types of things to make it interactive so that I can create the best possible hypnosis activations for you guys that I can. And again, there's the sky's the limit with this stuff. We tend to carry resentment. We can do things to forgive ourselves. It sounds kind of crazy, but like forgiveness, a lot of the times this resentment that we carry around as human beings, that can be in the way. And again, that crystallization of the self into this that potential, that highest potential of ourselves, that ideal self that we want to sync up with, we're not going to have, it's going to be much harder to do in an uphill battle if it's like patching on top of this thing that's where the foundation's already cracked. If we come in and we identify, okay, there's these things I was holding on to from the past, you forgive it, let go. We have a letting go process. All of these different meditations, like healing the inner child, the state of youth. You guys want to feel more young. You guys want to feel more vital. You guys want to feel like we can do ones for physical appearance. There's like I said, there is so much that we could do as far as hypnosis that if I really devote my time to this, I can really, really, really see this being almost the shortcut to to success with the many, many things that we want to manifest. But the thing is, it takes a lot of time. That's why I need to know from you guys, like, is this something you guys value? Creating these scripts, creating these hypnosis scripts, recording them, all of this stuff takes a tremendous toll on me. Not that I don't want to do it. It's kind of like a labor of love, and I love doing this stuff. But because it is so time and energy intensive, and really to create, really to bring into being, this is like high level work to do this stuff. Some of the highest level identity level change work that we could do. I just need to make sure, or I would like to make sure, that it's something that you guys would really value. And with that being said, though, let me know. And it's something that's been on my mind, something that I want to do. It's just that I've been feeling resistance towards it lately. And yeah, I think if I had some encouragement here, Not that I need it, not that I absolutely need some sort of external validation, but at the same time, it'd be nice. And I really, I really do like the aspect of YouTube too, where it's like interactive. Like, I know that if I was to do these and recreate these recordings for myself, they'd be good. But if I had you guys sharing with me and bouncing back and forth ideas or just dropping comments, letting me know, hey, let's do this one. That's what really uh, makes it an awesome process as well. So with that being said, guys, like I said, you already know the deal. I'll be seeing you guys in a video soon, and let me know. Drop a comment down below. Engage with this video. Let me know your thoughts. Expound, expand. Tell me what type of activations you guys would like to see, you guys would like to have, and I'll get working on them. Anyways, guys, see you in the next video.